Spiritual Ministration, Chapter 7, Mission and Upadesha. Part 1. Side note: the term Upadesha means spiritual guidance or spiritual instructions given by a guru. Continuing on. Sri Swamiji's mission. When Sri Swamiji completed the full 12 years of his Yuga Tapas, and Shiva and Parvati came to give him darshan and to bestow on him their blessings. On that occasion, Shankara Bhagavan outlined to Sri Swamiji the mission for which he had been sent to this world. All this has been recounted in some detail in Chapter 4. From then on, Sri Swamiji has been devoting his time and energies to faithfully carrying out the directions of his Divine Guru. In order to fulfill the mission given to him by Shankara Bhagavan, Sri Swamiji ministers to the spiritual and material needs of the people in the following four principal ways. A. Darshan. B. Giving consecrated vibhuti for curing of mental and physical ailments and the amelioration of mental worries. C. Kirtan and Bhava Samadhi. And D. Dhyana Diksha. Darshan. At his ashram in Bangalore or wherever he is camping during his many tours in India and abroad, Sri Swamiji gives darshan at fixed timings every day, usually in the evenings. If there is adequate seating available for all the people, then those who have come for darshan are permitted to sit in his presence. If, as is the usual case, the crowds are large and seating space is limited, the people are asked to file past the place where he is seated for darshan. Though Sri Swamiji appears on these occasions to be seated quietly, apparently absorbed in himself, he is keenly observant of all that is going on around him. Each and every individual who comes for darshan receives his grace and blessing, albeit silently. And whether the person concerned realizes it or not at that time, the silent benediction that he receives during darshan sets in motion a subtle and intangible force which exercises a profound influence on the mind of the devotee, and this, in time to come, brings about a total change in his mental outlook. Some of the benefits that accrue as a result of Sri Swamiji's darshan and blessings are freedom from worries and attainment of peace of mind, elimination of bad or undesirable habits and attachments, attainment of mental poise, development of bhakti, and a yearning for following the spiritual path. Though it is hard to believe that mere darshan can achieve all of this, there are hundreds who are willing to testify to the efficacy of Sri Swamiji's darshan and the far-reaching benefits that his blessings have conferred on him and their families. In this context, it would be pertinent to quote Sri Ramana Maharishi's words on this subject. What do you think of a man who listens to a sermon for an hour and goes away without having been impressed by it so as to change his way of life? Compare him with another who sits in a holy presence and goes away after some time with his outlook on life totally changed. Which is better, to preach loudly without effect, or to sit silently sending out inner spiritual force? It is this inner spiritual force which is radiating from Sri Swamiji all the time, which changes the entire outlook of a person and diverts his mind along spiritual channels. It is also a fact that those who have once had Sri Swamiji's darshan are so charmed by his divine personality that they come again and again to repeat the experience and to savor the peace of his presence. Dispensing consecrated vibhuti. Worldly life is full of misery, and a large majority of those who come to Sri Swamiji's darshan have some tale of woe or suffering to relate, and they all come with the hope of Sri Swamiji, with the hope that Sri Swamiji by his blessings will ameliorate their suffering. In this they are not disappointed. Sri Swamiji listens patiently to each individual's complaint or petition. He then instructs an attendant to give the person some vibhuti or holy ash, which has been blessed earlier by Sri Swamiji along with the directions on how that vibhuti is to be used. In the treatment of physical or mental ailments, the use of the vibhuti in accordance with the directions given by Sri Swamiji has effected miraculous cures, and thousands of people have been benefited by this. There are also innumerable cases on record where patients who had not responded earlier to normal treatment and whose disease has been pronounced incurable by medical practitioners have been fully restored to health by the use of the vibhuti given by Sri Swamiji. As the Sri Sivabalayogi Maharaj Trust proposes to bring out a separate book containing the recorded experiences of the devotees in this regard, no specific cases are being cited as examples. Such instances, in any case, are too numerous to be included in a single chapter. Apart from physical and mental ailments, devotees approach Sri Swamiji with all manner of personal problems and seek his advice and blessings. Sri Swamiji rarely, if ever, advises such a person to follow a particular course or not follow a particular course. He tells the individual to make up his own mind as to the course he wishes to follow, and then blesses him by giving him sacred vibhuti, which, if used as directed, will help him overcome his problems. Kirtan and Bhava Samadhi. Wherever Sri Swamiji gives darshan, Kirtan is also held. Because of the powerful spiritual vibrations emanating from Sri Swamiji, a large number of people participating in the Kirtan go into Bhava Samadhi. This happens even when Sri Swamiji is not present at a particular place. As this is a unique feature of Sri Swamiji's spiritual ministration, it merits more detailed explanation, and hence it is being dealt with separately in a subsequent chapter. Dhyana. Sri Swamiji's primary mission is to set people on the path of Dhyana Yoga. The other three aspects of his mission mentioned above can in fact be considered preliminary steps meant to prepare people for following the path of dhyana by purifying their minds and by relieving them of their ailments and mental worries. It is a measure of the earnestness with which Sri Swamiji pursues this mission that he has to date, as of May 1977, initiated 2 million people into Dhyana Yoga in India and abroad. As this is the principal aspect of his spiritual ministration, a separate chapter has been devoted to Sri Swamiji's teachings on the technique and practice of dhyana. Spiritual ministration, some unique features. There are some unique features about Sri Swamiji's spiritual ministration which require special mention, and for those not familiar with these aspects, some elaboration and explanation. These unique aspects are covered in the paragraphs that follow. The Guru-Shishya relationship. From what we know by personal observation and from what we hear and read from the scriptures, it becomes evident that the great Gurus of yore were very selective in choosing their disciples. It was only after a long period of testing and close personal observation of the aspiring disciple by the Guru that an aspirant was given initiation and accepted as a disciple. Considering all this, it is indeed very remarkable that Sri Swamiji gives Diksha to all and sundry who come to him for initiation, often to thousands of people at a time. When questioned about this, Sri Swamiji explains that he grants initiation to all comers because these are the directions given to him by his own Guru, Sri Shankara Bhagavan. Elucidating further, Sri Swamiji says that the initial initiation is given in Mitra Bhava, or the attitude of a friend. Thereafter, to those sadhakas who take earnestly to the practice of dhyana after receiving the initial diksha, and who approach him for further grace and guidance, Sri Swamiji imparts grace in Guru Bhava, attitude of a Guru, and then guides them in their further progress. Again, there are many sadhakas who are eager to take Diksha from Sri Swamiji but are hesitant to do so because they have already been initiated earlier by a different Guru. For the benefit of such as these, Sri Swamiji has explained that A. If a former guru is no longer available to guide the disciple, or the guru has taught all that he knows and the disciple wishes to progress still further, there is no bar in his accepting another guru and taking initiation from him. B. Even for those who wish to continue under the guidance of their present guru, taking initiation from Sri Swamiji is no bar, because as explained earlier, the initial initiation is given to him in Mitra Bhava, and hence this need not affect a relationship with or allegiance to their present guru. At the same time, they can derive immense benefit and help in the practice of their sadhana from the spiritual power received by them from Sri Swamiji as a result of initiation. Rules of conduct. In most forms of sadhana, an essential prerequisite to serious spiritual practice is cultivating the rules and principles of good conduct, the yamas and niyamas as they are called. As opposed to that, Sri Swamiji does not lay down or insist upon any specific rules of conduct by the regular practices of dhyana. All undesirable habits will be automatically eliminated, and the sadhaka, motivated by an inner compulsion, will soon start following virtuous practices. Effect of spiritual power. The manner in which spiritual power imparted by Sri Swamiji acts in the furtherance of a sadhaka's dhyana practice has been detailed in the chapter on dhyana. The other unique benefits conferred by the spiritual power are: A. During the early stages of practice of dhyana, a sadhaka is usually afflicted by a dryness of mind because of lack of adequate incentive and by despair caused by the lack of any apparent signs of progress. Therefore, in order to motivate the sadhaka and spur him on to further efforts, Sri Swamiji vouchsafes divine visions and other spiritual experiences to a sadhaka during dhyana. B. Normally, only very advanced sadhakas can undertake and successfully practice the Nirgun Upasana, worship of the attributeless Absolute. Others can only hope to scale these heights by gradual and suitably staged spiritual practices, which in turn are dictated by the spiritual maturity of their minds at the commencement of the practice. However, by the grace of Sri Swamiji manifesting through the spiritual power imparted by him, a sadhaka following Dhyana Yoga taught by Sri Swamiji is directly able to undertake the Nirgun Upasana without having to go through any of the preliminary disciplines. Bhava Leela. This is perhaps the most unique feature of Sri Swamiji's spiritual ministration. As it constitutes a subject by itself, a separate chapter has been devoted to explain the Bhava Leela of Sri Swamiji. Mass feeding. Annadan, or gift of food, has been extolled in our country since time immemorial and has become a part of our heritage. The giving of food to a needy person has been lauded as the greatest of charities, and it has been enjoined upon householders never to turn a hungry man from their door. This is of course understandable as far as householders are concerned, but it is interesting to note that most of the great saints appear to derive great pleasure and satisfaction from feeding others, whether they be their devotees and disciples or simply poor people in need of a hearty meal. In the case of Sri Swamiji, feeding of devotees and the poor has always occupied a special place in the scheme of spiritual ministration. As has already been recounted, mass feeding of people has become a regular feature of Sri Swamiji's ashram from the very early days of his tapas. This practice still continues. Every year on Sri Swamiji's birthday, 24th January, on the Mahashivaratri day and on the anniversary of the commencement of tapas, 7th August, devotees and the poor are fed in their thousands at all ashrams run by Sri Sivabalayogi Maharaj Trust. No one who comes to the ashram on those days is allowed to leave without partaking of the prasad or consecrated food. That apart, wherever Sri Swamiji goes, he takes great pleasure in feeding the devotees. Explaining this particular fondness of his, Sri Swamiji says that on account of prolonged tapas, intense internal heat is generated in a yogi's body. By feeding people, this heat is neutralized to some considerable extent, as a result of which the yogi experiences great peace and satisfaction. It would appear from this statement that just as the fire of hunger in an individual is appeased by his taking food, the consuming fire of tapas in a yogi is appeased by the food offering consumed by him through the innumerable mouths of his devotees and the poor, for the yogi looks upon all creation as only a manifestation of his own Atma or self.